Mr. Bell's FixIt Shop. And there's a kitty in the door. Mr. Bell could fix almost anything. Broken locks, broken clocks, broken pans, broken fans, broken plates, broken skates. He could fix them all. People smiled when they walked past his little shop and they saw the sign in the window. It said, Mr. Bell's FixIt Shop. I fix everything but broken hearts. Mr. Bell did all his fixing in the back of his shop. At his workbench, he kept tools and screws and nails and nuts and bolts. He had pots of paint and jars of glue. In every musty, dusty corner, there were bins and boxes filled with odds and ends. His friends told him that his shop was too messy. Throw some things away, they said. But Mr. Bell said, no, there's a use for everything. You never know when you will need a doorknob or a pickle jar. Jill, who lived nearby, loved to look around in Mr. Bell's shop. She came nearly every day after school. I want to have a FixIt shop of my own when I grow up, she said. So Mr. Bell made her his special helper. One afternoon, as Jill was helping Mr. Bell polish the front window, she asked, "What's a broken heart?" "Well," said Mr. Bell, "when you feel so sad that you think you will never be happy again, that's when you think your heart is broken." "Gee," said Jill, "I hope I never have a broken heart." One day, Mr. Bell was extra busy. Ben the barber had a radio that would not play. "My customers miss the music," he said. "Don't worry," said Mr. Bell. "I'll fix your radio as good as new." Otto the laundryman had an iron that would not get hot. "What good are clean clothes if I can't iron them?" he asked. "Don't worry," said Mr. Bell. "I will fix that iron as good as new." Sarah Stevens had a camera that would not click. "I'm going to Australia," she said. "It won't be any fun if I cannot take pictures of the kangaroos." "Don't worry," said Mr. Bell. "Your camera will be good as new in no time." Mr. Bell spent all afternoon at his workbench. "I could certainly use Jill's help today," he thought. "I wonder where she is." It was nearly supper time when Mr. Bell finished his work. He was hungry. "It would be good to go home to my cabbage soup and roast beef," he said to himself. Suddenly, Jill burst into the shop. She looked very unhappy. "Why, Jill," said Mr. Bell, "what's wrong?" "I went to Grandma's house today," Jill said. "Her new puppy chewed up Rosie." She held up her doll. "Just look at her," and Jill started to cry. Mr. Bell forgot about his supper. "Don't cry, Jill," he said. "I'll fix Rosie as good as new." "Really?" asked Jill. She was still crying. "I promise," said Mr. Bell. "You run along now and don't worry about a thing. I'll see you tomorrow." Mr. Bell took Rosie to his workbench. He found an old baseball bat. "It's a good thing I didn't throw this away," he said. He carved a new arm and a new leg for Rosie. He smoothed away all the splinters and painted and polished the wood. "It's a good thing I didn't throw this away," he said as he picked up an old lampshade. With scissors and glue, he turned fringes and tassels into beautiful new hair for Rosie. A blue ribbon that matched Rosie's eyes became a big, bright bow for her new hair. Mr. Bell even made Rosie a brand new dress and shiny new shoes from scraps of fabric. Finally, he looked through his pots of paint until he found the color that was just right for a smile. With a little brush, he painted a cheery new smile on Rosie's face. It was past his bedtime when Mr. Bell left the shop. As he rode home, he remembered his cabbage soup and his roast beef. My supper will be very late tonight, he thought, but it will taste extra good. The next morning, Jill was waiting for Mr. Bell when he came to open his shop. "Did you fix Rosie?" she asked. "See for yourself," said Mr. Bell, smiling. "Come inside." "Oh, Mr. Bell," Jill exclaimed when she saw her doll. "She looks so beautiful." "Good as new," said Mr. Bell, and Jill gave him a big hug. That afternoon, as Jill was helping polish the windows, she said, "You know, Mr. Bell, there's something else I think you should fix." "What's that?" asked Mr. Bell. "This sign," said Jill. "It says you cannot fix broken hearts. But when you fixed Rosie, you fixed my broken heart, too." People still smile when they walk past Mr. Bell's FixIt Shop and they see the new sign in front. But the sign is just a little different now. The crack in the heart has a bandage painted over it, and the words above it say, "Mr. Bell's FixIt Shop. I fix everything, even broken hearts." The end. Mr. Bell's FixIt Shop.